Okay, we are live. Okay, so it is, I'll call the meeting to order, the EDA meeting. It is May 24th, 2023 at 6 o'clock p.m. The first order of business is I need to amend the agenda. We need to move number 4 of FabTech, Kenny Ryan, down under new business. We're gonna put him next to A, so then we'll go double A and FabTech down under new business. Okay, so we'll take FabTech and TIF and move that down. And I think that is all that we need to amend. So could I get a motion to approve the amended agenda? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, we need to approve the EDA minutes from April 26, 2023.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. April, what's the next one? Kaylin. We're on Kaylin. There we go. You're up. Thank you.
Good evening. To kick off our announcements, I have an update on Cranston Heights Park. I met with Not Machine Repair LLC, and they're a company that provides mobile sandblasting and painting services, and they were able to give me a quote to sandblast the current picnic shelter and paint it. It will be a little over $12,000. The quote is $12,192. It's included in everybody's packet is the formal quote for that. The JCs have been in contact and they've expressed interest in helping fund an update to Cranston Heights Park. We will also be submitting a grant application for the Smith Small Town Grant, and that Smith is the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. And this will be asking for $10,000 in assistance to help improve the park. With potential funding from both sources, I'm optimistic that hopefully we'll be able to make some improvements to the park, including the sandblasting and painting of the shelter. I'm hoping that maybe we can get a new sign for the front of the park as well. A sign company out of Rochester just got back to me today, and they gave me a quote of about $1,600 for a new sign that just said Cranston Heights Park, very similar to the one that's existing, except the new one would be weather resistant. Some additional ideas would be new playground equipment. I know someone has approached me and talked to me a little bit about nature-themed playground equipment. I think that may have been discussed back when Donna was here, or we've discussed something like an obstacle course, just something that's a little bit different than the existing playground equipment in town. We've also talked about permanently installed outdoor game equipment, which I also received some quotes for today. That would be things like concrete beanbag, or I don't know what you guys call them here, cornhole bags. The Tassie, like a permanent picture of those. They could also do permanent foosball, tables with chessboards, things like that, which I think would be a little bit different and maybe a great amenity for graduation parties or family gatherings, things like that at the park. And then we also talked to me about maybe doing posts for hammocking. I know what Jason said, a lot of the trees in the park are going to have to get taken out eventually because they're ash trees. So maybe putting some wooden posts in the ground that people could hook their hammocks up to, just to kind of utilize the space since it's a relatively big area. So a lot of different options, but hopefully we'll be able to get a good kind of comprehensive park plan put together. But at least with the Smith grant for $10,000, we'll be able to cover the cost of updating that picnic shelter and hopefully getting a new sign in as well. Any questions on any of the park updates? All right, awesome. And the second kind of announcement I have is a letter of support for the Smith Small Town Grant. One of the components of the grant is asking for letters of support, just to kind of show that the community is invested in making the upgrades and that there's going to be kind of community buy-in and support for the project. So I drafted a letter that would be essentially signed from the mayor and city council. It's included in the packets. You can either use this letter, or I don't know if the mayor wanted to draft something different of her own, but either way, if we could get a letter of support, that would be awesome. Again, just to kind of help us up our grant application. And this I will need a motion in a second for.
And that's for the letter for the Smith?
Yeah, so it would be a mayor, kind of, from the mayor, like representing the entirety of city council essentially, and that would be for that Smith small town grant for $10,000.
Is that the 25%
Yeah.
that we talked about today, that we would have to come up with at least 25%?
Yeah, so there's a 25% match. I'm hoping that with the JC support, that would be relatively easy to find. If not, then, we could either talk about trying to get donations, or there is also a Good Hugh County Live Well program that provides grants. And since this is kind of, outdoor activity, promoting, kids being active and things like that, I think we may qualify for something like that if we wanted to get $2,500 for a match. So a lot of possibilities, and to submit the grant application, you don't have to have the match in hand.
And I do have somebody who contacted me as well who wants to donate money to the park. So I've reached out to her. I didn't get a call back today, but we've talked. So that's not going to be an issue to match that at all.
I wouldn't anticipate the match having to come from the city funds at all.
No,
All right.
no, not at all. So, okay. So could I get a motion to approve the letter of support?
So moved. I looked at it, I was reading it earlier. Yeah, okay, no, I didn't do that, no, I was looking for it here again. I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay,
All right, awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
And just kind of a quick aside for that too, the grant is due, I believe June 24th, so a month from today, and I believe I'll hear back in August, so I'll follow up over the next couple of months with any updates, but definitely when we hear back at the end of August, whether or not we receive the funding. The next update is for the facade improvement program. Like we discussed at the workshop meeting on Wednesday, May 10th, I've made some updates to the guidelines, including adding a more prominent required document section to the application, including an option for the city to pay vendors directly as opposed to just reimbursing applicants. I added in language that the EDA board has the right to evaluate and make the ultimate decision on applications and payment requests. And again, that can kind of be, if someone delivers a final product that isn't in line with what they proposed, that way we can refuse payment, and also the board has the right to refuse any applications in case they feel like it doesn't align with the guidelines or eligibility requirements. I also added in the language the limited application frequency to be only once every 3 years for businesses. I expanded the eligible projects area to put a greater emphasis on aesthetic improvements. And I also added in personal labor expense as an eligible, just to make sure people aren't billing their own time to the facade grants. And I changed the maximum award amounts and total annual award. So I feel like that covers most of what we talked about. I didn't include a redlined version in the packet just because I changed the formatting so much by adding in the box and other things. But if anybody would like a copy of that, please let me know and I can forward that on. The only two additional changes I would recommend looking at if we wanted to consider them would be imposing an application deadline. And we've discussed that briefly to see if maybe we wanted people to have their applications in, maybe by November 31st, just to make sure they go before council within a year. Again, that would help with budgetary purposes, or if we just only wanted to open applications for a certain month of the year, like in January, and then review them all together. And the other requirement that we spent a lot of time discussing would be changing the eligibility requirements to only apply to the first 4 kind of retail or active commercial businesses. So those would be the other 2 things that we could discuss further, we could add to the guidelines. Otherwise, if the board is comfortable with where they sit now, I would recommend just sending them to the attorney for a quick, review once over to make sure it's all legally compliant. And then we can open the program up again. If we wanted to adopt them tonight, I would need a motion and second. But again, if we wanted to talk about any of the other changes or have the attorney look at them first, I would recommend holding on a formal motion and second to adopt, and we can bring these back next month.
So are you looking for a motion for this?
well, I'm wondering,
We should have Bob look it over
yeah,
first.
I'm wondering if Bob should look it over before we make a motion to accept it, or have you had an opportunity to, Bob?
Yeah, so Mayor and Council, sorry to join late. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, we routinely do look these over. I did not look these over. I sort of didn't want to dive into it if I wasn't asked to do that. So, but we could do that quickly if council wanted us to do that, or EDA wanted us to do that.
Okay. You may do it quickly now, or at another
Now?
time.
No, I
No,
can't do
okay,
it.
thank you. Okay, so we need a motion to, have Bob look it over and then we can act on it.
Also move.
Okay?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so we'll send those along and have you look them over then.
Great.
Okay,
And then the final thing I have on my list is to approve payment for the 24/7 fitness facade application. This was brought in front of the EDA board at their meeting on April 27th, 2022, where their facade improvement grant was approved, totaling $2,500. This was to subsidize the replacement of the door to the stairs leading to the second-story apartments, broken panes of glass in the front window, and then they replaced 2 second-story apartment windows. The work has been completed as indicated by the attached payment request form, invoices, and pictures. So I'm recommending approval of payment for 24/7 fitness. And this I would need a motion and a second for.
No motion.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay,
That's all for me then.
hey,
Thank you.
thank you,
Yeah,
Kayla.
thank you. Yeah, because this was the other two, I was going through these in the art station.
Yeah. As well. Okay, so we are now going to move into lot sales. 105 3rd Avenue, 201 11th Street North, and 1009 3rd Avenue. The paperwork is in your packet. So at this point, what we'd like to do is close the EDA meeting. So could I get a motion to close the EDA meeting?
One motion to close the EDA meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mayor,
Aye.
I'm sorry, EDA President,
Yep.
just to be clear, I'm not sure if I misheard you, but I think we're gonna talk about three potential sales, right? We'll have to identify each of those in
Right,
order to close, about those three.
Oh.
Did you say those three? I didn't hear you.
yes, I did.
Okay, my apologies.
That's okay.
But
So we can go ahead and close now?
you can.
Okay, so we had a motion. Chris, you made the motion to close the
I
meeting?
did.
Okay, Joe, you seconded.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, meeting is closed. Okay, so I need,
You're welcome to bring a chair out
Yeah.
there, if you need
just,
to.
he has to leave too, doesn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah, so,
Okay.
okay? Yep.
Yep, we're back. Yep.
Okay, I'll open the EDA meeting back up again. So, Bob, do we make our motion now, or do we want to just explain? Mr. Gates?
Yeah, no legally right or wrong answer there, EDA president, you know, either way is fine.
Okay, so, what we've discussed, Wayne, is what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back, with a counter offer
Sure,
of, 5%, half the amount on each lot,
okay,
okay? And then also, we would like you to, make sure that you look at the grading plan and to build according to what's on the grading plan for the lot.
so,
So pass that along to the
so
builder.
what is on the grading plan?
Two of them are a full basement, and one of them's a full basement.
Okay,
Look,
well, one at a time.
Two are full-
I want you to tell me that, so it's
Yep.
not confusing.
Well, what you got the numbers of them, tell him the lot number and what they are.
So 201
Okay,
is a full basement lookout.
okay,
And then 1009 Third Avenue is a full basement.
alright,
And then 1005 Third Avenue is also a full basement.
so you're saying they must comply with
Right.
the
So we'd like them to comply with all the covenants that are in place and with the grading plan. So that is the motion that is on the table.
Which means also, Wayne, is that they can build on a full basement, they can build a grade on. They can build a slab on a full basement lot, or put a full basement in.
Okay,
Remember, there are two options.
yeah. So, I guess, you know, the full basement slash, slab on grade, I'm really confused that it's, you know,
Well, the grading doesn't change.
yeah, I guess.
Basically, the grade is the
Well,
same.
And I have a question for the engineer. You have a grading plan, and that grading plan is a set elevation no matter what style of house is on it, is that correct?
No. So when we.
Oh, you take a flat lot. You take a flat lot, and the grading plan for a lookout is the same as the grading plan for a full basement, is the same as it isn't.
No, that's incorrect. So when we do these plans, when we do
Sure.
a full basement,
Yeah.
we're assuming that the lot is flat all the way through.
Right.
When we're looking at a lookout, for
No,
example,
no,
a full basement lookout,
no, I'm talking about a split entry, excuse me.
Yeah.
A split entry and a full basement and a slab on grade, the grading plan is the same, am I correct?
Okay, I think what we need to do, because for the essence of time,
Yeah.
you certainly have questions for Reese, and I'm sure he would be happy to answer those.
Okay,
I think
appreciate
the
it.
council needs to, we know what we're gonna counter, we
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
what we're asking of you, let's move that forward and get a motion so we can move on, please, okay? So could I get a motion to counter at 5% on each of the 3 lots that Bigelow is proposing, and that they follow the covenants and the grading plan?
All motion.
One second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So,
Thank you.
Mayor Buck, when do you want to sign? I mean, I'll prepare that counter offer.
You'll prepare this part of it?
Correct.
Okay, and then is just the mayor, or do I have to sign too?
No.
Just her, so she can work out a time, because I'll be gone the next 2 days.
Okay,
Just send me an email. and
Okay.
we'll get together.
Okay,
I'm around tomorrow afternoon
okay.
and Friday. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks, Wayne.
But, you know, I would like that question followed up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Reese is more than willing to
Yeah.
help answer those.
I'll get them your number.
Okay. All right, okay, so, I need a motion to close the, to adjourn the EDA meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. It is now 6:57. I would like to open the regular city council meeting, May 24th, 2023, at 6:57. Call the meeting to order, stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Okay. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Is it an amended agenda or just the?
Yeah, we amended it. We
Oh, yeah,
amended it
okay, yeah.
before, so
Yep.
just to approve the regular agenda.
All motion.
Okay. Give it a second.
Yeah. So move.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we need to approve the meeting minutes of April 26th. Bob, is it appropriate to lump those together so we can just do one motion?
Yeah, Mayor, that's fine.
Okay, so look over the meeting minutes from April 26th, May 3rd, and May 10th, please. They're all pretty standard.
Yeah. I want to move it. I had a question on one of them, but
Anybody have any questions, or? Did I get a motion?
so moved. I went through them earlier.
I'll need a second on that when someone's ready.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Old business. Billboard, you want to address that, Reese, real quick?
Yes, I can. Good evening. So we did get through on the survey of the billboard along Highway 58. We did include the survey drawing in your packet. And so if you look at the survey, what we ended up finding is that the billboard actually sits on both the city and the Stairs property. So there's actually one post on each property. So it's almost 50-50. I think it was like 55% on Stairs property, 45% on the city property. So I think the next step for that would be to come up with an agreement with the stairs on how you would like to approach that and how that gets paid out. I did send this to Reagan Outdoor Signs. I did receive an email back from Carter this afternoon on the way down. He said they were certainly amenable to negotiating and however that looks. So I don't think there'll be any problems on that front. So.
In my discussion with Reese, given the length of time that the billboard has been sitting there and no one has collected any revenue on it, I just expressed interest to Reese that I thought it was only reasonable that we could retro go back to at least January of 2023 and be retro paid for that. And, you know, he'll have to come up with 2 contracts, one with stairs and one with the city of Goodhue. But, Bob, I know you've looked at times about the rental agreements on those signs with other communities. I mean, I think it's important that we don't shortchange ourselves on this. I mean, it's a pretty visible area there. Any suggestions?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, I agree with what you're saying, Mayor, that it seems like there's some compensation due to the city, and then the adjoining landowner, apparently the billboard stands with one foot on one side and the other foot on the other side. It's totally appropriate to expect some sort of consideration, compensation for having occupied city property for what sounds like years, maybe many years. I will tell you though that, you know, the only leverage we actually have over that, it's not as if we have a legal right to demand rent for prior periods when the billboard was on our property. The only leverage we have is to say the only way we're going to rent to you going forward, enter a lease with you going forward, is if you pay us something for the time you've been on our property. So just want to be clear about sort of, we have limited leverage over that. I'm not sure if the city would ever let you get your billboard off our property if you won't pay us for the last year or 5, you know, whatever payment we want. But that's the leverage we have, and it's normal for a landlord, for an owner, including a city owner, to expect something. I just wouldn't expect, and Mary, you already said it, I wouldn't expect rent for the last 5, 10, 15 years. I'd expect some, you know, nominal payment in recognition of the fact that they've been there without paying rent for some period of time.
Who takes care of the grass and stuff underneath it?
Isn't that the sign is not mowed, nothing underneath it.
Well, and it isn't on the state right of way, so,
No,
do we go right up to it?
we don't really get close to it,
Okay.
cause it's on the other side of the
Dry run.
dry
Dry
run,
run.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So is that something, Reese, that we can work on with Bob and coming up and then visiting with Reagan Sign Company?
Absolutely.
Is that agreeable with the council? I mean, at least we're making progress with it. Now we know where it's
Now that
sitting,
we're actually aware of it.
right? Okay,
Yep, thank you.
all right, good. So, on the next business, pool party fees, we agreed to that at our work meeting. So those are the figures that we agreed to, correct, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just need a motion to, accept the pool fees as stated on the agenda.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we update the fees to what we discussed and, you know, go from there.
Okay? Can I get a second?
Well, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. New business, resolution approving subdivision, Kenny Ryan. So, Bob, you were gonna kind of, chime in on this one, please, with the resolution?
Sure, Mayor and Council, as a backstory on this, of course, I presented to you several months ago a draft ordinance that would replace your fairly old now subdivision ordinance and zoning ordinance. You've got a combined zoning and subdivision ordinance, and there's an ordinance that says what zoning rules apply and how land can be subdivided and divided in your city. It's fairly old, adopted around 1970. I've proposed some updates to that, a new ordinance, and that's something that you're working through now. You obviously have, since 1970, had lots of land subdivided in your city. What your old ordinance says is that land that gets subdivided is supposed to get platted, and I'm happy to answer questions about what platting means, but basically the short version of that is that what you did as an EDA in creating the couple of subdivisions that you have that are lots that you're selling, you platted those lots, that property, you subdivided it and platted it, and of course that results in legal descriptions like lot 1, block 2, lot 2, block 3, whatever. Those are the kind of legal descriptions you get when you plat land. Platting process is a bit cumbersome, it takes a little bit of time, it costs some money, and so many cities provide an alternative route to allow land to get subdivided that doesn't require that new lots get platted. Typically, cities call it a minor subdivision or a simple subdivision process where just one lot is being divided into two. So that's something that the new ordinance that I presented to you would allow you to do. The old ordinance that's in place now doesn't really talk about that, but that is a way that the city has allowed subdivisions to happen in the past. So what's presented here tonight is a way for land that's currently owned by Steer Farms to be an existing lot or parcel subdivided into two, so that part of that existing parcel can be sold to EKR Properties, which is the entity that does business as Fabtech. Would allow them to buy a part of an existing parcel. The reason you have to approve that, City Council, is because in order for the deed, the conveyance to be recorded with the county, the city has to have said okay to that subdivision. So that's a long-winded way of just leading up to what's in front of you now. It's a request by Steer Farms and KR Properties to allow some land to be subdivided from one property into two, so that Fabtech can buy the subdivided parcel and use it for its purposes. So in front of you is a resolution to approve that. I would just note in the resolution, what we've said is that three things: that the applicants, the parties I just described, they have to provide a description of the existing parcel, right? There's an existing parcel that will be divided. The survey that they've provided includes legal descriptions of the two new lots. It doesn't include a legal description of the current existing parcel, and the county may want to see that. So we've said in this resolution that they'll have to provide that to the county if the county wants that. We've said that they have to record the subdivision, the resolution approving the subdivision with 120 days. That's again standard. And then lastly, they've got to reimburse the city for a little bit of legal and maybe the priest look at this, but you've got a little bit of expense put into redoing this, so they have to reimburse the city for that. So that's what's in front of you. I would just say as a caveat, so that's the end of my discussion about what's in front of you. Just as a very short caveat, the reason cities require approval of subdivisions is so that cities can plan for how the city is going to develop over time, right? Cities have an interest in deciding where parks are going to go, if you're going to have parks, where streets are going to go, where utilities are going to go, where public infrastructure is going to go, and having the right to control land subdivision by approving it or conditioning approval of it. That's the way cities allow for future improvement of the city, future development of the city. That's all a long way of saying you might want to have plans for where roads are going to go, where utilities are going to go as your city grows, and your subdivision approval authority is the way you control that future development. So just so you understand why it is you have a subdivision ordinance and why you're asked to approve this, it's so you can control and dictate and direct the way the future development of your city is going to go. And I'll stop there, Mayor.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for our city attorney?
I think we should get up to date and,
Yeah,
you know,
Right, absolutely.
right. Okay, so, could someone make a motion to accept the resolution approving the subdivision for Stair Farms and Fab Tech?
also move.
Get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay,
Mayor, if I could just say, as a parent, that one more parenthetical, one more caveat, and this is just a note to Jill, we could talk about this offline, but I'll just say it now, I'm thinking about it. When I provide, resolutions or ordinances to you, to staff, to present to you at council meetings, I always have, resolution number and then blank, or ordinance number and then blank. Typically a resolution would be numbered with the year, so 23 dash and then the number in that year of the resolution that's being adopted. So I don't know if you want to start having that sort of a keeping track of system like we have in different systems. I just want to explain why I always put a blank at the top of the resolution that can be added when we adopt them.
yeah, that certainly makes sense. Okay, all right. Any other questions on that? Okay, so, Mr. Ryan, you're up.
All right, just wanted to get in front of you guys today, appreciate your time. What I have here is, initial thoughts on what we'd like to do to the site. And this is the existing site. I'll go off memory here, but
You can keep, I can look
that's
at
okay.
this.
So what we have here is, shows the existing building. It's 175 feet by 340 feet long. When we put this in, we had talked to the city, said, hey, we plan on expanding. So we did dirt work and we had chosen, I think it's Chosen Valley, do all the soil borings and the testing. They prepped another 300 feet, so we were ready when we wanted to. We are not looking for any sewer, water. It's already built in. We did that to the west side of the building. So on the southwest corner is our sewer and water, and then also roughly, I don't know if I can actually read this. Roughly half to 2/3 down on the west side towards the north, there's also our sewer there. So it all runs to the same spot, but we're not looking for any improvements. We're not looking for any roads. We're not really looking for anything. What we are proposing is that we would come to an agreement on another TIP project for this building. Again, like I said, really not asking the city to put up any funds for any infrastructure. I don't know if there's questions, concerns,
Oh, that's
anything I can
fabulous.
help. So, and really the big thing here is when we did this building, we wanted to be a little conservative because we knew moving into it, we were already sized to where we needed to be at that time. So we are growing fairly well, bringing in new customers. Our challenge now is if we don't add on, I'm gonna need more room for welding, and I'm gonna have to go back to the farm, and the county's not gonna like that. We really wanna keep it here under one roof, so.
So, and this is already laid out, or is this what you had to buy now from the stairs again?
No,
Okay,
no,
good.
so if you look, from right, let's see here, so we're right here.
Yep.
So it's going.
Yep, so we're, the 300, I measured that off, we're about here on 300.
Oh, so it's just a little bit there.
So there's room where we maybe add a little bit
Yep.
to that hill, but there's room for
Okay.
300 feet.
Good.
So, and this, like I said, it's not set in stone. I'm fairly confident on the size. I'm looking for a little taller building. So it'd be obviously things we gotta look at. And I'm used to, we worked with the county, what inspections we needed, what we needed to do, so I don't think there'd be any challenges there. So obviously the first step is figuring out where we're moving, and then I really need to come up with a design because the columns may be in a different spot than what the original one was. And then of course put the building out for bids and,
Yeah.
and so.
So I think basically what you're doing tonight is coming to the city, informing us of your intent, correct, Kenny?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So by adding on this potential addition, are you looking at bringing in more employees then?
Yes, probably, so what I'm thinking is we'll probably move most of the equipment in the new area and add welding in the old, because we already have ventilation there. And then everything flows from one end of the building to the other. So the way it's set up is right now, on the east end, everything receives in, gets cut, travels through welding, goes through paint, so it makes a big U.
Okay.
So we still have not perfect flow through, but it would be better.
More of an assembly line.
Right. And then the trucks would pull into the back, everything would be received in, and then on the opposite end, the east end would still say shipping.
Okay.
So, and that's some of it too, is so a big portion of our building is just taken up with trucks. So it's, yeah, but
That sounds like a great plan to me.
So we'll just kind of continue to move forward and need to hear back. Bob, is there anything else? I mean, this was kind of an introduction to the council of FabTech's initial plans for an expansion. You'll notice that behind that, it also had TIF. That's a different, we'll get into that in a minute, because that has to do with the old TIF and the resolution there. But is there anything specific now? What would be the next step for Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I mean, it sounds like an exciting expansion, and it probably benefits the community, and it sounds like council members are interested in it, and that's all positive. You know, obviously, there are sort of financial details that have to be understood and worked out by probably lawyers that aren't me, finance lawyers at my firm can help with that, and then your finance assistants at Northland try to get together and look at the numbers and figure out the way some potential TIF could be provided for that. And I think Mr. Ryan said, tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ryan, but you are looking for some additional subsidy from the city for the expansion, and that's great. But, you know, so the first step, I guess, is sort of getting the numbers together and understanding what exactly that will look like and how that will work. And so I guess that there is the next step. And then if I understood you correctly, the looking backwards, looking into history TIF, the TIF that already exists, that's a separate area here that's coming up in a second. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, very good. I'll stop there.
That makes sense to you?
yes,
Yeah. And we will have further discussion about this with Northland Securities. That will be on May 31st. We start talking with them, and Bob will join us on that. George will be there as well. Okay. All right, good. We'll let you know what we need at this point, and we'll keep moving forward.
okay,
Okay,
appreciate it.
we'll stay in touch, and exciting, excited.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kenny.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Next thing would be that TIF, the investor letter. Bob? And
Yeah,
again,
that's sort of slightly out of my wheelhouse, but as I just said, this relates to the TIF, the subsidy that the city previously approved, $742,000 approved TIF costs related to FabTech's prior expansion. And basically to summarize, Mayor and Council, what's in front of you, it's the finalization documents, the last step documents now that FabTech has essentially done the work. What they need to do is they need to provide this draft, our office has drafted the letter for them to sign and send to us. But it's a letter that basically says what they've done and what they acknowledge about how TIF works. They would sign that letter, that investor letter is is how it's titled, they provide that to us. And then my colleague Julie Eddington, who's working on this, has also indicated to Mr. Ryan in an email that there are a couple of financial reports that are due for 2022 and 2023. Subsidy reports are what they're called. And so with the letter being signed by Mr. Ryan or his companies, and then those letters being provided, what we'd ask for is the city to approve now, when that stuff is received, the certificate of completion. That is something that where the city acknowledges that what FabTech said they were going to do has been done. And by acknowledging that, when we receive the information I've just indicated, by acknowledging that, then the city will be in a position to actually make the TIF, start making the TIF payments that we agreed to make. The first payment being due in August of 2023, and then continuing forward into the future up to a total of $742,000, assuming there are $742,000 in qualified costs, and I have every reason to believe that there are. So that's essentially what's in front of you there. This is all, I mean, I'd like to get deeper into detail, and I'm sure you guys would be fascinated about that. If it was bedtime, we could all go to sleep talking about it. This is all pro forma stuff, though. This is the way TIF projects get finalized, and these documents are pretty standardized. So I guess what I'm asking you to do is approve the end of the story on the TIF that's already been approved, assuming we get the documents from FabTech.
Okay. So as far as accepting, making a motion to accept the investment level and this letter and certificate of completion pending, contingent on all the documents coming in, is that?
Yeah, I guess it's a fair point, Mary. I mean, the technical, I guess, motion, I hadn't really thought about the great detail. I think that the motion to ask for would be approval of the certificate of completion upon receipt of the documents the lawyer has spelled out. So if somebody just wants to incorporate that motion by reference, that would work.
Okay, so could I get a motion to approve the certificate of completion for the TIF agreement with FabTech?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, good. All right, one more thing. All right, so is that all we need then on that, Bob?
It is, Mayor.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much. Reese, you're back up again.
Popular man.
Thank you.
I think I can almost cover items B through E with this update, so, kind of go through on the middle. So first and foremost, sanitary district. We got funding.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yay.
So that was huge. So there's a lot of hard work. I know Mayor was up at the Capitol doing a whole ton of work. Councilmember O'Reilly was, doing a ton of work on this, and in all the communities. It was really fun to see everybody work so hard over the last 3 years to get this thing rolling. So there was a lot that changed over the last 2 weeks. So, ultimately we ended up, I think it was Saturday, ended up on the final bill to where the two parties could agree on actually funding a bill. So what this will mean is the district they have $10 million for design and land acquisition to get the project going. So in talking with the lobbyist this morning, what he was saying is, well, now the state has put in and invested in this. He said they're much more likely to get that actual next bonding cycle. So to actually fund the construction of the project. He said that's a better likelihood now. Obviously never for certain, but something that was positive. So that said, next bonding cycle is coming up very quickly. So we are going to need to put in some, and we already kind of have all the documents pulled together. It'll really just be updating dates and some numbers. But basically middle of next month, we'll try to go and get on the bonding tour again. And so that'll kind of kickstart that process again. So right now, it was authorized as a joint powers agreement between the four communities and the Prairie Island Union community. So we're going to have a few kind of agreements on that piece just to try to get this thing rolling. So the GO bonds actually you can't really draw on them until the fall when they actually sell the bonds. Now, from my understanding, you can actually incur costs for that. You just probably won't be able to get compensated for any of that until that bond actually gets sold. So there's a lot. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So there's a lot to come and a lot to sort through. But really take a minute to celebrate and see that this is the first step. So if nothing less, in the Goodies instance, now you have design, and that'll get you a lift station and a force main to Zumbrota. So if we don't get the funding for the actual full district, there's still, you kind of have a design in place. So that's a big help. So we'll be going for bonding, and then the other big piece will be PSIG grants. So that's the point source implementation grants. So those two cycles don't necessarily line up, but we should have bonding and then PSIG grants. So the PSIG would cover up to another $7 million per community. And then the bonding ask would be for probably half the project. So there'll still be a little bit of a gap, but it's much more manageable. So still a lot of work to do, but got through the first step. So that was really good. So really appreciate it.
Could I add something too? So in these meetings like yesterday and today, and Reese will certainly kind of chime in, but at this point now what we need to do is there has to be a fiscal agent that needs to be signed to hold the money, correct? Attorneys and engineers, so all those things have to be put into place. So a lot of meetings will be coming up and just attending those kinds of things so we can get things moving. So I think you might have one tomorrow. I have another one on Friday morning. So we'll keep you posted, but a lot of exciting things. But it's going to be a lot of time put in this. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving forward, 4th and Broadway. So did just walk the street with Jason and ran through a few punch list items on what we all need to get done. Did have a call with the contractor yesterday. He was working on getting us an updated schedule. Hoping to get the area downtown poured for the sidewalk before Volksfest. Still trying to push that forward. I know Jason's talked to Fitzgerald as well, so pushing on that end to try to get these guys out there and get this thing buttoned up before contract is over. Roundabout, I know originally when we sent out the water discussion was going to be for a special meeting for crossing Highway 58. I think, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were able to shut off the water line, and so that was a positive, so we were able to isolate that if there was a break, so that was good. I'm not sure if there's anything further we want to discuss tonight.
No, we'll discuss it at the May 31st meeting.
Yep. And then moving down, and this would cover item C, but the Ag Partners land vacation. So I did include a quick little markup of what they had originally requested. You do have some utilities within that area. So what I was showing in this exhibit, there's kind of this bluish outline is what they had requested. The green outline is kind of what I was suggesting is just stop it that partial way short of what he's requesting so that you can still maintain and have your public utilities there. Now the other option, so that's one option. Your second option is to just place an easement over top of it so that you can still access what.
I thought that's what we talked about with Bill that night, was doing that, the second option you're talking about.
The easement?
Yep.
Okay. And if that's the case, we can certainly help with that legal description and add in that, but just wanted to make sure I had good direction from the council on which route we'd like to go.
And so, Bob, with that discussion with the Ag Partners, since Reese kind of, touched on it with vacating that property, is just by talking about it tonight and making the communication about the public hearing in 10 days, is that what we need to do?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, as a condition or as a related thing to getting the easement that we want from Ag Partners for trail, they've asked us to vacate some road right-of-way that sort of is in the middle of their property. I guess the reason this is coming before you, you can't really actually vacate that right-of-way yet because you have to have a public hearing by law, by statute. I think the reason for coming forward is that there is a bit of expense. You have to publish a notice, so there's a little bit of expense to publishing notice of the hearing and a little bit of effort staff has to put in to arrange the hearing. And so I think we want to know that you want to proceed with considering vacating what Ag Partners has asked us to vacate a little bit, this section of, is it 6th Street? I'm getting that wrong maybe, but it's in your packet. So I guess staff would like to know that you want to proceed with having the hearing and considering vacation.
Yeah.
Front Street, I'm sorry, not 6th Street, Front Street.
Yep. So then correct me, we need to make a motion to move forward with the vacation of the Front Street property and hold a 10-day meeting, 10 days out, a hearing.
That's just right, yep.
Okay, could I get a motion for that?
A motion.
Okay, second,
I'll say.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So Jill, you'll take care of.
Yeah, and then we need to choose a date
Oh,
for that. So the earliest date, since it wouldn't hit the paper until the 30th, the earliest date would be June 8th. Within 10 days.
and is that on a Wednesday?
It's on a Thursday.
Okay. And then we have to have that hearing.
When your paper leaves, when does it leave to be delivered? Is it Tuesday?
I think it's Wednesdays.
It's Wednesdays, but the city of Goodhue gets them, we get them on Tuesdays here.
Mhm.
They're at the gas stations, so.
Could be. So,
So,
I could be wrong.
so what would be the earliest date then, Jill?
the 8th,
The 8th,
it's a Thursday.
oh, June 8th? Okay. That's when we would put it in the paper, we could have the meeting.
That's when we can have a meeting.
Okay, and what
Because
day is that?
It's a Thursday.
Thursday.
So I will send it out tonight, so that it hits the paper for next week.
Okay. That's the Thursday of Folks Fest,
It would be.
isn't it?
Huh.
What's the next one? I mean, that's a bad time for Jason
Oh,
because
it's really bad.
everybody for Folks Fest.
So if you went to the next working day, we could go to June 12th, which is on Monday.
On Monday.
That's
Yeah.
June 12th.
What does that look like? Joel, is that something, Chris?
I won't be here.
Oh, he won't be here. Will
Um,
Patrice be back?
Yes.
So we'd still have Patrice. Is that an issue for you if you're not here, Chris, on this? It's
No.
pretty cut and dried with
Yep.
this, isn't it, Bob, this procedure?
It is.
Okay. I mean, if you're okay with it, I'd like to get it done as soon as we can.
Absolutely.
Does that work?
It isn't gonna take long, I mean, it's.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's shoot for that, June 12th.
June 12th.
That would be 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
We'll be around.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
At least I know I can tell Oldmeyers now.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys know if I end up in Kansas City or something.
Okay, good. You've got that, Jill? Okay. All right. Are we good on that issue, Bob?
Yeah, we are. And again, just, the law requires that we have the hearing. I will tell you that we will have no one commenting or opposed, so it's just a technical legal requirement, and it's an issue that goes to the title that Ag Partners will get after we vacate, so we just want to make sure that they get good titles, so we have to have the hearing. If no one's going to care, they surround this property, so.
Right. Okay, good. All right. Want to continue? Sorry, Reese, we jumped ahead, but that's good. It was a great segue.
Nope, we'll keep it rolling. So last piece, I just want to give an update, the Verizon wireless attachment. We did take a run through that from a structural standpoint. The global stability seemed fine. I didn't get any calcs for the new guardrail, but one thing that, you know, and Jason and I have been talking about it too, and there is a meeting set up with KLM who inspected your tank, your water tower. A lot of times what happens when they start welding on the tank, they can burn through the tank if they don't take very special caution to it, and then you actually burn the inside of the tank. So what we usually like to have is somebody out there inspecting. Again, that would be like a KLM or somebody like that that does this sort of thing. Really want to look out for trip hazards that they would put up there, make sure they're not violating any OSHA requirements, and then really it's that tank coating, because if that gets damaged, that's going to cause a really premature deterioration of your tank, which is going to cost a lot of extra dollars to do that. So a lot of times with these agreements, and Bob, you might know better too, most of the time that gets put into an escrow account by Verizon Wireless or whoever is attaching to that tower. They put that into an escrow account, and that pays for any design review, that pays for any inspection of the work going on out there, and then the city is not, you know, incurring any cost for that, because they really shouldn't be. So.
And they have to weld up there, huh? They can't just make brackets and bolt onto the existing brackets that are up there, or they have to do
Even
something?
when they bolt on it, if they're getting through that,
Absolutely.
you know, you worry about that, and then you worry about some of the clips that they have for some of the antenna attaching to it, if it's gonna rub against there or cause any paint to peel off. That's.
So the welding is a new guardrail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
They have to do a wider circumference, right?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
And it's not because they're adding what? I think 3, I don't remember.
Yeah, if I look at it.
6 panel antennas, it says, and 3 remote radios. And the rest of it just looks like it's cables. Huh.
So Reese, my understanding, you're working closely with Jason and the companies to make sure that this is done properly?
Correct. And
Correct.
the one thing
Okay.
is, you know, before we issue that permit for that, we would just want to make sure that that escrow account gets set up so that you can have somebody out there inspecting, so you don't just have somebody go out, put it up.
Right, and then
all
look it
of a
over,
sudden
right?
it's
Yeah.
a-
Right.
We have somebody there during, right?
Okay. Okay.
And that is all I had for my list, unless there's any questions. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, water main project, we're actually going to be discussing that, on May 31st, so I could maybe just get a motion that we move the water main project to May 31st meeting.
So move.
A second,
Second.
all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Joel, Goodview Signs.
Yeah, we do have the one sign here. The only bad thing that happened was when I was talking to him, I was talking about 2 signs and he was talking about 1.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we're, you know, I don't know where we sit now after we paid for what we got left, but so the discussion is if we're going to do the other sign, which he explained to me that when they bid it, they actually bid it wrong, but they're not going to charge us any extra money. But Jason and I were out and looked at where the sign would be out north of town here, and we determined that we would have to have longer poles there because of the cornfields. You know, the one up here is 12-foot poles. We thought we'd probably have to have at least 16-foot poles down there, so it was above, the sign was above the corn. So if we're gonna do the other sign, we'll have to get a new quote from them and go from there. And
Hey, Joe, so we went out and pulled the old one out,
yeah,
and then we found another right-of-way marker when we were there. so it could go right where the other one was.
Well, it can,
So that would be close enough where you wouldn't have to go higher because it's closer to the road or like?
Well, still.
it
Still
still
gotta be
probably
taller.
should be higher because
Yeah.
it's pretty, the property level is quite a bit lower than the road there.
Right,
You
but I
know,
was just telling you, after.
Yeah, well, that's good to
Found
know.
another marker, it was underneath that busted sign.
But because of the property level being so low below the road, I think we do need taller poles there on that one.
Oh, I agree.
And I can ask them to give us a quote on the new sign with the new price, which I'm sure we won't like, but.
No. Just the cost of materials since the first quote have gone up so much that.
What do you want me to do?
Joe, do you have, anybody who's helping you look at like the wrap and what it's,
I've been talking to, it's in Red Ring there. Let's see, I got it on my telephone here.
Sign works?
sign works or the Allegra? So if we're gonna keep moving
Anchor
along.
Promotions.
Oh, Anchor, okay.
And so I've been talking to Brenda.
Mhm.
She's, went to school here, and so I've been working with her, and it was, 2 signs at that time. It was two signs. This is about a year ago, $550 for each sign with $100 setup fee for the wrap and the sign. So if you want me to, I can call the people that built the sign and have them give us a price for the new sign.
Well, we gotta know where we're at, so.
New felt.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. I see we
Nope.
at least get a quote.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I think we're kinda committed because we
We got
told,
one.
well, we did, but, we told the Lions we're gonna put 2 signs up and
so could I get a motion, to have Joe go ahead and get another quote on the signs, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, summer help. Joe and I are on the personnel committee. We met with Jason, went through the applications for summer help, and we made a recommendation to hire Will Opsahl, so we'll need to take action on that. Also, in talking with Jill, we discussed his rate, and typically, when they come back, they get the 5% increase when they come back and start a new year, correct?
Well, it's worth it, 'cause he already
Yeah.
knows what's going on. It was here last year. It's well worth it, you know?
he's,
Absolutely.
Jason said he's just an amazing worker.
Oh, good, he does a good job. Excellent. Yeah, that's perfect.
So I need a motion to hire Will Opsahl as the summer help and approve him at a 5% increase.
Also move.
I'll second.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next one. Okay. Jason, the agitator, we already talked about this
We
one.
already talked
So we just need a motion on the agitator.
But we have to have it.
Yeah.
so, yeah.
We discussed it at our work meeting. So could I get a motion to approve the purchase for the agitator?
Is it the agitator motor or was it the whole, it's all one?
It's all one, it's a submersible well pump. is what it
Oh,
is.
okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion, 'cause I know we need it. We discussed it, so.
I get a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Data request form. Jill went ahead and updated this. This was on a recommendation from you, Bob, on what we could ask and charge for.
That was in our.
So it's just the lower.
Yeah.
Just the lower left-hand side. We just had to make an adjustment on that, correct, Bob?
Yeah, that hadn't been called out for me, so I hadn't looked at the language, but, yes,
Okay.
that looks to be correct.
Okay.
Lower left side there, you're talking about sort of the note there?
Yep.
in
Yes.
italics?
Yep.
Yeah, that looks correct, yep.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the updated data request form.
So moved.
Get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Ordinance. This is one, again, that Bob worked on. So Bob, this is the, swimming pool, regulating private swimming pools. Anything you'd like to add or share with
Yeah, no,
us?
Mayor, Council, I got some very clear direction from Jill, from you through Jill about, I think, what you wanted to change, and I just tried to wordsmith what I was directed to do, so there's no magic here.
Okay.
Good.
All right,
So roughly a 5,000 gallon pool, how big a pool is that?
Average.
15-foot diameter would it be, probably? Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of them here in town that don't have any type of fence around them, and one of which has no fence in their yard, and there's little kids. So I'm kind of curious on the size of a pool that would require that fence. Like,
isn't there a minimum, Bob, what they can have where they don't need a fence?
I'm not aware of a statute that says that, I mean, that makes common sense, but I'm not aware of a law that says that.
Okay. I mean, we have a lot of those pools popping up.
yeah, it was addressed to me from somebody that lives next door to a pool, that they have little kids and there's no blocks on the ladder,
Right.
and I mean,
So they are considered an attractive nuisance, aren't they, Bob? Is that the term? Attractive nuisance?
Yeah, that's a good term, Mary, yeah, I mean, that's a term that means if you put something in your backyard, even though the kid might trespass and come in your yard, the fact that it's out there, you ought to anticipate the kids are gonna do that, so, but yeah. But I guess maybe I'm missing the point, maybe I wasn't listening close enough, just the ordinance as it's written, only requires this for pools that exceed 5,000 gallons, you're talking about how big that is, so I take it that pools under that size aren't subject to these requirements, right?
that's the way the ordinance reads.
Right. So I guess I don't know how the city has picked 5,000 gallons. I haven't heard that particular number before, but that, given the parameters that somebody just described, that seems to make sense. It sounds like a pool that below that size you might be, because this does cover both above ground and below ground. So above ground would be, that could be your kiddie pool, right? Your plastic one you bought from Walmart. I think you don't require a fence for that, right? So.
Correct.
Correct. But one that might be 15 foot in diameter, 4 feet deep,
Yeah.
I would assume that you would need one, but I don't know how many gallons
Yeah.
that holds. Because if it's 4,000 gallons, I mean, that's still a risk there.
Right. I mean, we've talked about that before, 4 feet tall, it's pretty easy to get in 4 feet.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much, so. I mean, it's certainly something that we could table for now and look in.
On number 2, it says, there shall be a distance of not less than 4 feet between.
Outside pool,
Wall
building.
in any building.
I can think of one that's just in the middle of their backyard,
Yeah,
and that's 4 feet high at least, and
Yeah, the 2 of them, they're literally back to back, and neither one of them have fences in their yards, and there's little kids that live around there, and the last thing I want to see is
exactly.
life-changing event.
Well, I'm sure we can find a formula for how many gallons is in a pool if we got the diameter.
You can Google it. I mean, basically, a pool that you get at Walmart, or, the inflatable one type things, they're gonna be under 5,000. If you got one
Yeah.
that is probably permanently put up, I can look, I know there's a formula somewhere, I just don't have it now.
Well, and some of these are left up all winter.
15-foot size, and that's probably, yeah, one that's left up all winter, that one's probably 5,000 gallons.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a formula, you can do the measurements, I'd have to see them to
I think we should check into that.
Yeah.
how deep they are.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to check into it and maybe
Okay,
change the gallon wise at some point.
maybe if they're
So
ready.
basically, here's a quick reference I found, a 10 by 20 that's 5 feet deep is 7,000 gallons.
Yeah. It doesn't
20,
take much.
that's pretty good
What's that?
size.
Did you figure it 13-foot diameter? Yeah, 'cause
13-foot
13-foot
diameter
diameter would be 5,000.
is 5,000.
Well, how about, we can table this and maybe bring some more information back to our work meeting. Our next work meeting is really going to be ordinances. We're gonna hit that zoning ordinance, and we can talk about this one too as well, and see. Okay? So, could I get a motion to table the private pool ordinance until further information and research is gathered?
All motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving along. Okay, Bird's Farm Store. This was a letter and a phone call that I received from Josh Liebel. He's the project manager from Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And this process was started last July, from my understanding. And this is all about the soil borings and the contamination levels at Bird's Farm Store. So Bob, did you have an opportunity to read that? That was something that you wanted to address when we talked? Because
Yeah, Mayor and Council, yeah, I had an opportunity to read it, and I'm familiar with the stuff you received. And I guess I would have to say, first of all, I only know exactly what is in the documents I have here. But I take it, Mayor and Council, correct me if I'm wrong, but I take it that the property that was operated previously as Bird's Farm Store, or whatever the name is, Bird's Farm Store, I take it the city now owns that property? And
No.
do you think that's?
No, Roxanne Overmeyer owns it, right?
It's listed under Roxanne Lodemeyer,
Oh, okay.
and we own a small piece of it, a very small chunk of it. That's why they're asking for permission to access the property, to get the soil samples. Now, Mr. Lodemeyer, Dick Lodemeyer, has already signed his agreement to allow that to happen. And so I didn't
Yeah,
sign mine
okay,
because
what I'm
we
saying
were,
is right, and the city owns a piece of this.
A
property,
piece of
maybe
it,
not
yeah.
all of But yeah, well, so, I mean, all I can say from a lawyer perspective is, as you are all well aware, when the state discovers environmental problems on property, the property owner, or property owners, if there are more than one, can become responsible for some cleanup costs, if that occurs. And so, and you may become responsible for that only if and when the problem is discovered. So, that's just the way the law works. And so I have no reason to tell you not to do this. And it sounds like the Department of Agriculture has reason to believe there's something there to look at. And I wouldn't want you to stand in the way of that, but I do have to tell you, I mean, to the extent you agree to let them do it and they find something, there could be a cost to the city. So that's reality. Now, what would you do about that in the alternative of signing this? Would you go and do your own investigation? Sure, if you owned a large site where the cost of discovering a problem might be very large, you might do that yourself and sort of figure out a plan yourself before the state comes in. Again, I'm not suggesting that that's the case here, or that you want to get in the way of the Department of Agriculture. It strikes me that you might just want to cooperate and move along, but my job is to tell you what the potential problems are.
so I
that's
did,
my thought.
I did talk to Mr. Liebel, and I asked him those specific questions, and he said because Mr. Ofsted is no longer alive, and because he was
Yeah, I mean, if everything you just said sounds totally plausible to me. I don't know it to be true, but that sounds like it might very well be true, that there's a grant and that it would cover this. I guess the shortest distance between A and B then would be, they're asking you to sign an agreement, right? A contract that says they have the right to go onto the property, including the portion that the city owns. I don't know why you couldn't just add a paragraph that says, if you find something, we're not liable for it.
Correct.
That would be easy to add a paragraph or a sentence that says that, and so maybe we just, ask the Department of Agriculture if they're willing to add that sentence. If they're not, I suppose we should figure out why they're not willing to do that, and if they are willing to do it, great, then we should sign it and move on.
Okay.
Well, there's a high likelihood that there is contamination there.
Oh,
Because
I understand that to be the
I
case.
did trenching there. I did some,
I figured that the department representative told the city, told the mayor that there isn't really any potential for the city to be liable, and again, I have every reason to believe that's true, but if that is true, and that's what the department's saying, I agree with the mayor that we ought to just put that in writing.
right.
Then let's go ahead and let them clean it up, that's fine. Obviously,
Yeah.
the city doesn't talk about it.
Yes, I did some trenching there 15, 20 years ago. And when I trenched, ammonia was so bad, I had to wear almost like a gas mask. So, I mean, I know there's very high likelihood there's contamination.
So my understanding is, what the council would like me to do is to contact, Josh again, legal, and get him to put those things in writing, that there will be no cost to the city, and the city will not be held liable for any contamination or removal. Is that correct, Bob?
Yeah, that's what I would recommend. It sounds
Okay.
like at least a couple of you agree with that, so yes.
Yeah.
Is that
yeah,
good?
I
Okay.
think so.
So could I get a motion?
No motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Reminder of the special meeting on May 31st, 2023 at 6 p.m. We will be discussing financial issues, TIF, is that et cetera? Or et cetera, okay. And then we'll also talk about the water main, because that also falls within that too, okay? Is there any public comment? Okay. And we need to look at the bills. Bob, I don't think there's really anything else for you if you need to sign off.
Great, Mayor, thank you, nice to see everybody.
Absolutely.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Good.
The one that I looked through these earlier, and then on the 103, the Goodyear Gas Commission, the reimbursement for, because then they did a March and an April, that's why there's two of them, because they give us 12,000, and then there was another one in April that they give us
Thanks, Kenny.
like 14,000 or something. Yeah, another gas commission, so that was, because we're only doing them once a month, that's why.
Right.
Cause I thought, that I got down twice and I read it, so that's fine, yep, and then they had the 12 and the 14. So that is pretty crazy, all of a sudden, all those receipts in, and then when you look at the number out, it's really easy come, easy go, it's all, you know, in and out, it's crazy. I looked them over pretty good, but.
Oh, so those are a lot of the park.
A lot of people bought pool passes already.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah, I seen that number too, the Jeeps, that's.
yeah, just did another, $2,500 deposit this week, that was for last week and this week.
Yeah.
We're up to almost 50 full passes
Really?
alone.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, good.
So it's like 10 up from last year, and that was for full season, so.
Yeah.
So when we look at the cell tower rental for May, that's $23.97. With what's going up new now, do we have an estimate of what we'll be getting per month yet?
No, I haven't seen any.
Okay, but we would be getting more, I'm assuming.
I think we have to renegotiate that contract.
Yeah, but I would.
Right.
Because the
would
contract before is gonna state what was up there,
Right,
Right.
so.
and so then to renegotiate that, because that'll be coming at some point.
I mean, they're taking more area.
Space,
More
right.
space, yeah, okay.
Should I note that for work meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
at
maybe.
some point, we'll have to adjust that. But I think it's only fair, they need to know that that's coming.
Yeah, I mean, if they're, obviously when they're expanding, they're getting more on it too, so.
Well, how
Have a
much
nice
is a
night.
pool pass for the year?
Uh,
Full
Uh,
pass for
150.
Family is 150, and single it's 70.
Okay.
I'm taking donations this year.
So, if you look on page 13, I think it's, you know, Jason has now hauled out, that was on,
Oh, that's
425, the
solids.
loads, the solids. So when we're looking at that, you know, and it could be, you know, the more that needs to go down, right, Jason, it's gonna cost,
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We had to take extra loads, because we were having trouble this last
Yeah.
few months.
Exactly.
Right,
So
so
maybe now it'll be fine for,
didn't it say that we were gonna, have it every month, and bill every month, so it didn't come up the same, cause that was for 2 months? Or every quarter, is that what it was, okay, yep.
all right, over every year, Joe.
I can't, yeah, I thought I saw a note in there.
Once a year.
Once a
Oh,
year, yeah.
it was, okay, yep.
Jason, could you maybe, is the 18,000 on here?
That's on for the next month,
Yeah.
because I just did it.
Okay, so I wonder if Jason should just maybe address that quick. So
Yeah.
it just so people are aware of it, they're not gonna be shocked when they see that.
If it's all right, yeah.
Yeah.
So at the last week, we got a bill from the city of Centrola for treating the biosolids for almost over 2 years, a little over 2 years, at 10 cents a gallon, 6,000 gallons of load. And I put it in the public works report for you to read, so you're aware that that bill's gonna come through.
Yeah.
That's just the cost of them treating our solids, because we can't treat them here. And so I called right away and I said, for budgeting purposes, we need to go for a yearly
Yep,
cost.
that's what I
So
thought.
it's all been, Jill and I talked to Mike and their finance people, and we ironed it all out, so hopefully that will be a little easier to accept next
So
year.
9,000 a year.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt quite as much,
Yeah.
Right.
and a little bit easier
The
to.
sting
budget.
isn't as bad.
No, but there's still, the trucking costs will still go up.
Big
Right.
I'll just pay,
Yeah.
and haul it down.
Yeah.
This was what's happening for me.
Alright,
All motion to pay bills.
okay,
Second.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, meeting adjourned.
No.
Yay.
Thank you very much. Boy, we got a lot accomplished today.